All right. So, in case you guys don't know me, I am Jeffrey Jacob, and I work with Community Patriots, Pinellas Watch. I like working with Dave on the Pirate Podcast. He's awesome. You ever hear Dave Happy on the Pirate Podcast? It's awesome. And thanks to Conservative Grounds for the venue. You guys rule. Don't forget to take care of your servers. And anyway, I'm going to cover mainly Florida law is how it applies to health freedom issues. And there's a lot of stuff that you see on the web, like on social media. So somebody will say, okay, they can't ask me for my medical status because of what? What do you usually hear? HIPAA. Okay. That is usually, I'm not trying to be a party pooper, but that's a misapplication of law, usually the way that people state it. I'm not saying the way you are. And then they'll even spell it like HIPPA, like hungry hippos, but it'd be like hungry hippo. Remember that? See, I'm aging myself again. Remember that? No, it's HIPAA. So if we're on social media, we don't want to, we're talking about some really controversial issues. And so when we're talking about controversial issues, we want to be right with our facts. Right. Like if we're going to cite a law, we want to read that law and actually understand what it says. Right? Yes. And so when you look at HIPAA, HIPAA, so that, they'll ask if I'm vaxxed or not, oh, that's a violation of HIPAA. Well, it only applies, this is the party pooper part of it, it only applies to specific entities. So when you look it up, it's in the Code of Federal Regulations. I'm going to have this on video, so you guys don't need to memorize all this or scratch it in shorthand, but it's a Code of Federal Regulations 160.102. Is everybody hearing me okay, too? Am I good? We're good? You're good. Okay, cool. So HIPAA only applies, in other words, it can only be enforced on health plans, healthcare clearinghouses, and healthcare providers. That's it. It's limited to that. So doesn't apply to bars, doesn't apply to restaurants, doesn't apply to Disney World. So when we talk, oh, they can't ask that because of HIPAA, you can look up the law yourself, and you're going to find that. And so it's under Code of Federal Regulations. So if you read it, it says, except as otherwise provided, the standards, requirements, and implementation specifications adopted under this subchapter, that means HIPAA, that subchapter, applies to the following entities: a health plan, a health clearinghouse, a healthcare clearinghouse, a healthcare provider who transmits any health information in electronic form in connection with a transaction covered by this chapter. So we can't be all willy-nilly just saying, oh, they can't ask that because of HIPAA, and we discredit ourselves when we misapply the law. Just as, like if we're talking about Bible verses, right, and we misapply that, we're a bad representative of the word. So it applies to this. We want to know what we're talking about. So now this is the other thing. I got this from a law website because I was looking this stuff up too, because I'm a pro se litigant and an activist and a researcher, so I like to figure out how I can sue people. I mean, we want to stay out of court, but it's not a great place to be. It stinks, really. But yeah. So in looking up HIPAA, I was looking up some lawyers, and it says there is no private cause of action in HIPAA. So what a private cause of action is, that's fancy legal terms for a private citizen filing a lawsuit, hiring an attorney and filing a lawsuit. So on an attorney's website, it's straight up, there is no private cause of action in HIPAA. So boom, right there. Even, let's say we could even use it, you can't even get legal remedy from it. And you can't hire an attorney and initiate a lawsuit under HIPAA. So it continues, even if HIPAA rules have clearly been violated by a healthcare provider and harm has been suffered as a direct result, it is not possible for patients to seek damages. So even under the correct application of the law, like let's say there was a HIPAA violation with a, a health plan, healthcare clearinghouse, and healthcare provider who transmits blah, 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 blah. even if it was with them, it is very difficult to get legal remedy. So you can't even hire. So if they even violated HIPAA, you can't even hire an attorney and sue them, whoever violated that. Okay. I'm not making this whole speech about HIPAA, but I'm trying to make it very clear that I see that a lot on social media, people using that, and I'm just, I guess I'm overdoing it, just so you guys get the point.
So what can we say to these people?
Okay. The young lady asked, what's a good thing to say? Okay, so I've brainstormed this a lot.
In what scenario?
Yes. Yeah, a normal scenario. Whatever, an employer.
A front door knock?
Could be anybody. Great, a front door knocker. I have found the best way to go about this, non-confrontational, right? And this is from me having prior police encounters and being arrested. So, so what we're dealing with, though, we're dealing with health police.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. We almost have to pretend that we're a prisoner of war, and we're going to just say name, rank, and serial number while we're a captive of war. So, to answer your question, what can we say? It's name, rank, and serial number. It's Fourth and Fifth Amendment. You have a right to privacy,
Right.
and you have a right not to incriminate yourself. So I've done a lot of thinking about this. I'm like, okay, if they're going to door knock, or if an employer, a potential employer is going to ask, hey, can I see your vaccination status?
It's on sale.
I'm going to say something as simple, and I've been thinking about it, and the most logical conclusion is my family attorney has advised me not to disclose private medical information except with my doctor.
That's good.
You're not refusing to answer. That's not a refusal.
Right. That's following doctor's advice.
It's following your lawyer and your doctor's advice.
Right.
Two titans of this particular topic that we're talking about. But that's the most non-confrontational answer, because you're actually being cooperative. See, and that's the thing. A lot of authorities try to turn things on you. Oh, you're not being cooperative. Well, no, I just didn't give you I didn't give you a yes or no answer. I don't have to give you a yes or no answer, but I did say my family attorney, or just so you're not blind, you could say my counsel. So your counsel's the Lord Jesus Christ, right?
Right.
Your counsel's God, as you understand him, right? Whatever, whoever whatever you do, you have counsel. You could be your older brother. You have a wise counsel. So counsels advised me not to disclose private medical information except with my family doctor. Do you see how I'm saying that as a mantra? That's your name, rank, and serial number as a prisoner of war. And they might even press you. Well, you're not being very cooperative, or they'll be more aggressive with you. Same thing. Yeah, this is, and you could even preface it with this. This is not a refusal to answer. This is not a refusal to answer, but my counsel's advised me not to disclose private medical information except with my family doctor. See how I just said that again verbatim?
Right.
And so as they're pressing you, then you're just saying, hey, this is not, now, let's say they're taking notes, right? They got their tablet. I'm just picturing the scenario. I've watched some of these videos, like where they're, I don't know if you guys have seen that, they're not door knocking for vac status now. I've seen some videos of it. Yeah, they got.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, they're posting on social media. That people tell them to get lost. But I don't want to do that. Like, I want to be off the radar.
Right.
And so when they come to my house, I don't want to be put on some list. I mean, I'm probably on a bunch of lists. I used to get followed around by the Hillsborough County Sheriffs quite a bit. But you don't want to be followed. You don't want them coming back to your house. I'm answering her question this is long form, but it's stuff that I've been thinking about, and it's very important because we want practical applications, not just some theory that we're reading on the internet somewhere. So I don't want them coming back to my house. Because what happens with the census when you don't answer the door? How many times does the census come to your house, right?
Yeah.
like 6 times? I think that's their limit, 6. It's pretty high. They're probably going to do it higher for vax, maybe 10. I don't know. But we don't want them coming back to our house. So we want to answer them. We want to talk to these public servants or whatever. But we don't. We just say again, hey, my counsel's advised me not to disclose private medical information with anybody except my family doctor. Then they press you. Oh, well, this is not a refusal to answer. Now, they have their tablet. They have to take notes. I think I saw some directive. It'd be nice to print that directive out. Like, they actually have rules that they're supposed to follow. So they put in their notes. This is where you get, I wouldn't say confrontational, but you got to say, hey, I would like you right now, under my direction, to put in your notes that I was cooperative, that I didn't refuse to answer, and that I reserve my right, that a counsel advised me not to disclose private medical information with everybody except my family doctor.
Right.
Right, so you want to say, hey, I want to watch you type that out right now,
Yeah.
that I was cooperative.
Help them with the spelling.
Yeah, and you might even want to have, like when they come, you should record the whole thing, too. Because I've noticed that people in public, cops, anybody, they behave themselves when they're being recorded for the most part. You know what I mean? For the most part, yes.
Is there a scenario where you're talking about? Are you talking about when somebody comes to your door, or are you talking when you get stopped out in the street?
Either way, it's almost the same thing.
Well, you made the statement about that you don't want to let them know where you live.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Yes, I did not say that. I mean, it is better that they don't know where we live and associate the name. I have to agree with you. But yeah,
They know.
they know. I like that. I like how you said that. They know. That was great.
They know everything about everyone.
Yeah, so it just comes down to like our constitutional rights. You have a Fourth Amendment right to privacy, and you have a right not to incriminate yourself under guidance of counsel. Because if you answer yes or no, you've made an admission right there. And oh no, okay, he hasn't been vaxxed. They put your name on there, or whatever. And a potential employer could be anybody.
What about if we have that on the door?
You could have that. That's like an attention, trespassing if you're asking about the vaccine.
It says, attention, do not knock on this door or talk about the vaccine.
I think that's,
Trespassing, you don't even answer the door.
I think if you're comfortable with that, that's cool. Me personally, I'm not comfortable with that because I don't want to stand out as an anti-vaxxer and then have me put on a list and then,
Right, that's true.
you know what I mean? So yeah, I think a
When the
simple,
internet goes dark, that's when they come to you, take you away.
well, notwithstanding that, I just don't want, I want to be as under the radar as I can be. But that's just me though. And in other words, if you want to put a no trespassing sign, buzz off, I don't want to hear about the vaccine, that's cool.
Well, you had mentioned something about the census taker coming back.
Right, I don't want them coming back.
At my door, they had a mask on. Of course, these people are going to have a mask when they knock on your door. I can tell you that right now. I said, I do not talk to people with masks on. And she went away and never came back.
No, that's cool. Like, if you're comfortable with that and it's worked for you, I'd say roll with what works. I'm an under the radar guy. I don't want them coming back to my house. I want to be in honor by fulfilling their questions without compromising my position. Question.
I think it was Jim Stone on the internet that said kind of like cooperate with them a little bit.
Sure.
But give them some BS information to write down. Like, oh yeah, I got the Johnson.
Sure.
Instead of saying the Johnson & Johnson.
I don't recommend that.
I know, but I'm just going to say what he said. Because each one of us got to decide what we're going to do.
Well, you're cooperating with them, though, by saying, my counsel's advised me not to disclose private medical information with anybody except my private
He
doctor.
doesn't, but that was going along, not
Sure.
standing out at all. Okay, I got the Johnson, then they say, well, can you show us proof? Then you go back in the other room and don't let them inside whatsoever.
Yeah, I just think that opens up a can of worms. That's just me, though.
I'm just saying that was out there. I read that.
No, I mean, again, if that person is comfortable with doing that, I say roll with it. Let's see what happens. Let's throw anything at the wall and see what sticks. That's cool. I'm just reserving the rights. But back, so I think the HIPAA thing, does everybody understand how that's kind of misapplied after reading that? We're cool with that?
I just can't believe we've gotten to this.
Oh,
It's
Right.
well, it's part of the depopulation, and it's right upon us.
Another misapplication that I see, there's only one more. Like, let's say an employer asks, they say, oh, well, an employer can ask about your vax status, but you don't have to disclose it, right? I'm just saying a scenario. So people would be like, oh, well, it's the vaccine passport ban law that the Florida legislature passed. Have you guys heard about that? The vaccine passport ban law?
I heard about that from DeSantis.
Right. So everybody thinks like, man, that's such a great remedy. Like, the employer can't ask me that because of vaccine passports. The problem with that is that only applies to private businesses admitting you in their venue, or they can't disallow you to, and it says specifically for patrons. A business entity may not require patrons or customers to provide any documentation certifying COVID-19 vaccination. So let's stop right there. This vaccine passport ban law, it even says COVID-19 vaccine documentation. They're limiting it to just COVID-19. At any moment, whatever, I call them scariants. So the next scariant that's out there, like, oh, well, that's not COVID-19, that's Ooga Booga. Whatever, they'll give it any name they want. Now that vaccine passport ban doesn't apply anymore because it says COVID-19 vaccination.
But according to Nuremberg law, how can they force us to make this?
Nuremberg is technically not a law, and again, that's hard to use in court because it hasn't been tested yet in an American court system.
Are you talking about the Nuremberg law, or are you talking about the vaccine?
Well, I'm saying the Nuremberg.
The vaccine hasn't been tested either.
Sure.
We are the test.
Right. You have to prove that you were coerced against your will. So, like that hospital, it was 150 people in Houston, 150 healthcare workers in hospital in Houston.
Trying to force healthcare workers.
They used the Nuremberg Code in their case, and the judge kicked it out of court. And I'm not saying I agree with that, but this is the way the legal system looks at
It's
it.
not really American law, is it?
Yeah, no.
No, but that's not how he kicked it out. They were saying we're being coerced against our will to take this vaccination,
Yeah.
and it's violation of the Nuremberg Code.
Yeah.
Well, the way the judge said it is, you can just find another job. That was it. So you're not. He's saying you're not being coerced because you can just up and leave. Read the case. It's the Houston. It was a
Houston Methodist.
Yeah, Houston Methodist. Thank you.
Oh,
So technically speaking, they're saying the way the law works. It's called the right. We're a right to work state here in Florida as well. They call it an at-will state, whatever. So when you're an at-will or right to work state, they're like, yeah, you can just pound sand and go get another job. Now, so it is difficult to use the Nuremberg Code in a private cause of action, as we talk about, private citizen using that as remedy, just because we haven't tested it yet. I'm not saying it's not a viable option, but it's not as concrete slam dunk as like a Fourth Amendment violation or a First Amendment violation, something like that.
has gotten together with some doctors and some attorneys, and they are going to
In Germany?
they're going to sue because of them breaking the Nuremberg Code.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that case. I think,
Me too.
and they have a strong case
Yeah.
using the Nuremberg Code. And if they did that, it would actually set some precedents
Yes.
in our favor. But right now, it's not a slam dunk, like absolute, like a Fourth Amendment violation, Fifth Amendment violation that you can prove. It's just not available, that remedy. So, did you guys know that in Florida, a policeman can hold you down while a doctor injects you? The law allows
Hell
it?
no.
Yes, it's part of the law.
Are you the only guy that knows that?
Talking about
Can
Baker
it,
Act.
show of hands?
Yeah.
If you're talking
By
about
any
the
means
Baker Act,
necessary.
No, not Baker Act.
Baker Act.
I'm talking about Joe and Betty Beer can get held down.
Somebody unelected
By-
declares an emergency, and by
Yeah.
any means necessary, they can inject every one of us.
Yes.
What?
Yeah,
That's Florida law.
you can thank the Jeb Bush administration in early 2000s for that.
They've been planning a long time.
Planned a long time for this shit.
Yes,
It was in the wake of 9/11. The wake of 9/11.
this time.
So we've had a law on the books for 20 years
Yeah.
that some cops can just hold you down while a doctor just boots you up.
And if the cops refuse to do it, they can hire MS-13
Okay,
thugs to do
wait
it.
a minute, hold on. All right, so what's prompting the medical personnel to shoot the person with the needle in the first place?
Good question. It's in 381.00315. It's public health advisories, public health emergencies, isolation and quarantines. The state health officer is responsible for declaring public health emergencies, issuing public health advisories, and ordering isolation or quarantine. So,
So what was the name of your state health, what?
officer. It's somebody that's under the FDOH, the Surgeon General, Scott Ribke. So They can do that though without a court order. They can do whatever they want. They don't need the governor's consent. In other words, they've given the state health officer pretty much unchecked power to declare, even in the first place. So
DeSantis can't get rid of that?
okay, great tangent. This is a good tangent, and it's not really a tangent, by the way. The young lady asked, can DeSantis just squash this? Well, that's legislated in the laws of Florida. That's a Florida statute under the legislative branch. So a governor in the executive branch can't just straight up like nix that. It's already been passed by the legislature. When we talk about that vaccine passport ban law that just recently got passed, the legislature looked over that law and they didn't repeal it.
No, they didn't repeal it.
They didn't repeal it.
They can revise it, can they? And,
They didn't revise that part of it. But they left it on the books.
oh, yeah.
We saved it by signing the.
Yeah.
Question, Virginia.
Okay, two things. Now, that's only if the state is in an emergency, right?
No.
There doesn't have
That's
to
the
be-
other part of the bad news as I was going to read on.
Okay, and then, oh gosh, okay, the other one now. What were we just talking about?
We were talking about
The vaccination passport.
no, we were talking about the legislature not overturning, not repealing the forced vaccination law. But so, and she brought that up about the emergency. So part of their power is ordering an individual to be examined, tested, vaccinated, treated, isolated, or quarantined for communicable diseases that have a significant morbidity, where did I underline? Okay. Individuals who are unable or unwilling to be examined, tested, vaccinated, or treated for reasons of health, religion, or conscience. In other words, they're saying, if you give us a religious objection, if you give us a conscientious objection, and it even said unable. So that means even if you have a health problem, that's unable, right?
Right.
May be subjected to isolation or quarantine, but they also state that that can also be done with vaccination. So it says the state health officer may subject the individual to isolation or quarantine if there is no practical method to isolate or quarantine the individual. The state health officer may use any means necessary to vaccinate or treat the individual. Any means necessary. And then it goes on to say, any order of the state health officer given to effectuate this paragraph shall be immediately enforceable by a law enforcement officer. That's, you're getting held down and injected.
You know if that's true of all the states?
No, this is a unique law. Now, this was possibly, this is under the Model Health State Emergencies Act that happened in the wake of 9/11. So when 9/11 happened, there was something called the Model State Health. So in other words, there was some stuff that was drafted, and then some states adopted it, some states didn't. Florida adopted it under Jeb Bush.
I understand many of them did though.
Right. So this was on the books. Legislature had a chance. Have you guys heard of Attorney Sean McBride? amfreedomii.com. American Freedom Information Institute. Sean McBride. So he has been in communication with the legislature, and they just said, oh yeah, we're not ready to repeal that yet. Or they just gave him a non-answer.
Wow.
And that's our legislature. That's actually been the best. We've had the best legislature that you can think of, I think. We have great guys in there, and gals.
Because it is over 8 years old, I think it's
20.
Yeah, it's 20, but it's at least over 8. We can do something. We can
Absolutely.
do something about it.
Now that's a good, I want to springboard from here. If you've watched Attorney Sean McBride, I'm actually working with him on an amendment for medical freedom project. We're going to discuss that later too. So he talks about voter blocks. Have you ever heard of that? This is pretty interesting. So your state house representative, mine is Linda Cheney, District 69. She's awesome, right? I love her, man. She's great. So my district state house representative is Linda Cheney, and I believe Jeff Brandis is my senator in my district. I think he's all of ours, right? For Pinellas? Or we just get one, we get one senator, right? Yeah, right. So it's more, the districts though are more broken down. So with our district, this is what Sean talks about, voter blocks. If we got 1 to 200 people, in other words, it's like 200, he has this number between 2 and 4%. If you get 2 and 4% of all of us that are on the same sheet of music, say about the forced vax law, within each district, in other words, 2% of your district for your state house rep, 2% in your district for your state. If we got voter blocks of 100, it winds up maybe being 200 people. And then Sean talks about, we need to treat this like a business deal.
Yeah.
We're here to do some business, collective bargaining. Hey, there's 200 of us right here. We may sign a declaration of independence, basically, like with signatures. 200. Could you imagine 200 signatures within each of your voting blocks saying, "We want this law repealed. You guys need to shoot this down.
Yeah.
Get rid of it."
Statewide?
Otherwise, we might not be voting for you next term. But yeah, statewide it would be even better.
But that wouldn't change state law, right?
No, it wouldn't. But we want to do that statewide, right? To repeal that. But I'm just saying, we could at least start it in one county, because you know how things go when one group sees you actually doing something.
Yeah.
They see you jump out of the plane first. Oh, that parachute works.
It just shows they don't work for us.
Set the precedent.
No, I mean, I hate to, but we need. This is the thing. The burden is now on us to really press them hard. Oh, there's 100 or 200 of us. Here's our signatures. Here's our, here's my voter registration number. Here's my and then we have a notarize 200 signatures saying shoot this down.
Yeah.
That's one, but there's actually a better proposed remedy than that I can get to. But I'm just saying that as a general principle. We could use that for any law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, let's do some business.
Yeah.
Let's do some business. Hey, there's 200 of us. You need to strike this down. You need to get rid of this. Otherwise, we might have somebody primary,
So let's just clarify, hold on. So
Yes.
the state officer basically has jurisdiction over the sheriff, because the sheriff has jurisdiction over all the counties. But the state officer can order the sheriff to do that?
you know what? That would wind up being a murky, that could be a gun show.
That's Grady Judd? You think Grady Judd's gonna do it?
It says
He's
it.
gonna tell him to go pound
Well,
sand?
this is the thing. It says the state. It says law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
So this is where the sheriff could take jurisdiction, because he doesn't have to comply.
Right.
Yeah.
But what if they get the Florida State Police that has jurisdiction over counties? That could get murky. But then again, I don't know their delegation of power. Like, maybe their delegation for state is, I don't know. Like, I'm not an attorney, so that is a very good issue.
But it does say in that law, because I read that law, I mean, what's going around, we're all amazed. It does say in there, any means necessary, and if they can't get so-and-so,
They get the Fish and
they
Wildlife.
can get somebody else
officer
to do it. They can hire outsiders to go around and do it.
Wow.
Yeah. There's going to be a brighter side to this, and I'm not trying to initiate gloom and doom and to make the message sound better afterwards, but it's the reality that we're looking at,
I'm gonna run out of.
and it should be motivation.
That's right. Second Amendment time.
Did you guys hear about that Alachua mask case? No?
What?
Alachua County, there was a case of fake mask mandates, right? There was a case in Alachua County, and it happened in I think May of 2020 or something like that, right? It got shot down by the court, and the attorney for that is Jeff Childers. So Jeff took a unique approach. He didn't want to come off with a bunch of science, masks don't work, and make that a case, because he's like, well, then they can just pull any study they want and say, no, masks do work, and then it's like a Bugs Bunny
Right.
back and forth, right? So he decided to use constitutional law instead. He made it a constitutional argument. And so the case got kicked. Of course, they ruled in favor of Alachua County. So he took it up at an appeal. So in law, do you guys know what district courts of appeal are? Anybody? You guys know what that is?
Basically.
Yeah, if your case gets shot down in county court, you got to go to the district court of appeal, and then after that's the Supreme Court of Florida, the state, right? That's how the order works. So the district court of appeal, though, it's got some substantial weight. So he took it up on appeal. They did what's called oral argument. In other words, they're before all the judges in November, and so they sat on it. Like usually an appeal takes like maybe 2 months tops, and then they have a ruling. Well, fast forward to May of 2021, they were sitting they didn't rule on it. 3-judge court. So Jeff Childers filed a motion saying, hey, this point's moot, DeSantis lifted everything, don't worry about it, petition of mootness. And so the appellate court was like, no, we want to rule on this. And he's like, what? Like that's crazy, right? Like you sit on an appeal for 6 months, and then even the attorney that was fighting for his client is saying, no, hey, look, it's moot now. DeSantis lifted the restrictions. And then they're like, no, we got something for you. They ruled that masks are unconstitutional on the appellate level.
Wow.
First District Court of Appeal. So in Florida, there's 5 district courts of appeal for the whole state of Florida. Unfortunately, Pinellas County is in the 2nd District Court of Appeal.
Oh, figures.
It's not unfortunate. This is the thing. With that first they call it the DCA, right? District Court of Appeal. The first DCA ruling, if that was the only case in existence in Florida, anywhere in Florida can use that case. Unfortunately, the 4th DCA, those blue state wackos in Palm Beach,
Yeah.
they ruled, that 4th District Court of Appeal ruled against the plaintiff. In other words, they ruled their case failed in West Palm Beach County, then it failed again at the 4th District Court of Appeal, and they ruled in favor of the county.
We should take it to the Supreme Court.
That's where we're going with this. Okay, the issue is this. There's a conflict of law. First DCA says masks are unconstitutional, violates your, the theory, I'm going to kind of law geek about this. The courts, in a nutshell, the court's position on why they're unconstitutional, it's Article 1, Section 23 of the Florida Constitution. It's basically your right to privacy, your right to be left alone by the government, your right to privacy. And they're saying that attaching a medical device, a government, in other words, again, this ruling is only if the government can't mandate it, but a private employer can still. So the whole case was the government cannot mandate a medical device. It violates your right to privacy, and it's tied in with your right to decisional autonomy, right? Your right to make your own decisions, and bodily integrity. They use those terms. I love that. Decisional autonomy and bodily integrity. That's powerful terms. And they don't have the right to. And that went all the way back to English common law. So here we are in 2021. And we have these public actors that don't know about Article 1, Section 23 that's been in existence in the Florida Constitution since, 1800s. And then the judge is citing a law that goes way back to like English common law, even before our Constitution. So your right to decisional autonomy and bodily integrity, that goes back to the Magna Carta. So, so the uncertainty that you're talking about, the Supreme Court. Okay, so we have one masks are unconstitutional for the government to mandate it. 4th DCA in Palm Beach says, no, constitutional. So, the Alachua County can now go to the Supreme Court and say, hey, I want you to resolve this conflict of law. In other words, they lost on appeal, Alachua County. They really want that they want the Florida Supreme Court to rule. They haven't filed yet, to my knowledge.
Well, what are they waiting on, Christmas?
No, we're thinking they don't want to file because it's a stronger ruling out of the first DCA. So the 4th DCA, if you read it, I have not read it in full, but I've read tidbits of it. But based on a couple attorneys that have looked at it, they told me that it's a weaker case at the 4th DCA. In other words, they have a weaker position that masks are unconstitutional, and the stronger position, or that masks are constitutional, is the weaker ruling at the 4th DCA. The more stronger ruling is masks are unconstitutional at the 1st DCA. So we're thinking Alachua County, they would be basically resolving it, right? They would resolve the fact that for the whole state of Florida, masks are, because if they lose that at the Supreme Court level, masks are unconstitutional, period. Every district court of appeal can now use that case. So that, but the bad part about it is now we have this uncertainty. So let's say at the second DCA, hey, I'm going to court for, okay, government's mandating masks again. I'm going to court. The second DCA can pick any ruling they want. In other words, it's like what is it, like Lubies? Are they still in business? No, they're not. I'm aging myself again. Piccadilly's. No, it's like they're in the cafeteria like, I want to use first DCA. I want to use fourth DCA today. Which DCA am I going to? Yeah, that's what you're looking at. It's a roll of the dice.
Right.
And they like that. They like that uncertainty instead of that final thing. So that's called uncertainty of the courts. So not only do we have a legislature that's creating all these loopholes, not writing solid law, we also have a court system that's uncertain. We don't know. So the dissenting opinion, so the judge that dissented, so it was a 2-to-1 ruling at that mass case, right? So the judge says, no, masks were just a minor inconvenience. It's not as serious as, the right to choose how you die, the right to reject a life-saving treatment. He's saying that masks aren't as serious as that.
You don't know what he's talking about.
No, and that's why he was the one dissenting out of the two. So that's another thing. I need to look up that judge's name. We want to know these judges that are thinking like that.
That's right.
But I'm just saying, we could just as easily be up against a judge like that that thinks like that. Like, masks aren't as big a deal as that. The thing that's also interesting, the court used abortion cases to rule that masks were unconstitutional for bodily integrity. So, not that that's abortion.
Bring that up. I would say,
But
we say my body, my choice.
Well, that's what it was.
My body, my choice. I don't want the mask.
That was basically what they're saying. They're saying with the abortion law,
Right.
my body, my choice, you can't, it's the whole kit and caboodle right there.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So I got a question.
yes.
The Stanford, he said he didn't want to bring up science, he wanted to go constitutional. But the Stanford theory of January of 21, 3 times says their mortality can be, so when he says masks are just an inconvenience, that Stanford theory, could it be used? I mean, they talk about cancer and hypoxia.
Possibly. I think when you start introducing this type of stuff in cases, you have to get expert witnesses to testify as to the veracity of that, and then the other side has to get their expert witnesses too, and then you got to get a guy that's got more credentials than that expert witness.
You got lives, you got payoffs, paying off with the money.
Right. But that would be about the only way you can bring that up on the court level. So, guess what? Our judges also have what's called a pandemic bench guide.
What? Say that again?
A pandemic bench guide. A bench guide is what judges use when they're sitting behind the bench, like to guide how they basically court procedure.
Right.
But this is specific to pandemic bench guide. So according to that, it still permits forced vax. So all those laws we're talking about, so not only is there a statute, there's actually some clear language to judges with their pandemic bench guide that this is all constitutional.
We're going. Good.
Yeah. All right, so this brings us to this. Judges can go either way with this. It's a roll of the dice. Legislature, we found out they're writing really good legislation, and there's somebody up at the tip top that's actually watering it down. We don't know who it is. We need to find out who those legislatures are. So this comes down to a citizen initiative for a constitutional amendment. You know we can do that in Florida, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Okay, so Attorney Sean McBride with American Freedom Information Institute, that's amfreeii.com. We're working on getting a Florida constitutional amendment for medical prerogative. And that's a temporary term right now, Amendment for Medical Prerogative, AMP. And I guess we came, at first I thought prerogative was too big of a word. But then I remembered Bobby Brown, My Prerogative.
Yes.
I was like, no, man, if it's good enough for Bobby Brown, it's good enough for us, right? But I don't need permission. I make my own medical decisions. But what we are asking for, I'm gonna have a list. We just need your name, first and last name, and your email in print, please. Just to say, hey, I want to go out and collect signatures. We need 900,000 signatures to get this just on the ballot.
For November.
Yes, thank you. November 2022, we need 900,000 signatures just to get it on the ballot. It goes through a few revisions. So all we need to know is like, hey, are you available to go out and collect some signatures? You know, that's it. Tell your friends about it. We have most of the language of the amendment drafted, but I am raring. Okay, I'm like raring to go. I'm like, man, I want people to read this. This is like awesome. But then, I'm not an attorney, and Sean is. And Sean has a whole team of attorneys that need, so even after Sean like rearranges and proofreads and gets it right to his standards, he's going to go to another attorney or another one. There's going to be, so that, we can't unveil that yet, but what I can tell you, the way it's worded, it'll basically offer more protections of rights. It'll clear up the inconsistencies of the vaccine passport ban. It basically says you can't be coerced into a medical intervention against your will. And so, really, that's what we need. Is this amendment? I have these handouts. I have a bunch of them printed out, and you guys can get one if you want. I'll probably set it right over there. And it describes everything right here. It's kind of it's an 8-pager. Yeah, like I said, the language of the amendment isn't ready to, but when you read this, at least the proposal for it, and that's all we need right now is just names. We're not asking for money. We're just asking for names and emails. Does this sound like something you'd want to go out and get signatures for? And we're not even going out and getting signatures yet because we haven't formed the nonprofit yet. And we're close to getting the money for that. Go ahead.
So when you do form the nonprofit, can you also do an online signature, sign it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah.
That's a lot of signatures for
Yes.
our group.
It's a lot. Yeah, and it has to be across like 27 counties.
We have to get to another meeting at 7 because our information, can you give us
Awesome. Big ups to the LaFleur family. Yes.
Doesn't it seem to be like no matter what laws you have, if people are evil, it's not going to do a bit of good. You need to change people's hearts.
Sure.
Everybody's lying. They're lying about this whole thing. In last May, it was 1/7 the magnitude of real pandemics like in 1958 and 68 they're in. They didn't do all this. And we caused all this damage to ourselves. They did the test is bogus. So even that, and we don't know what people are really dying of.
Oh yeah.
And it's all a lie. And so it's not really these laws that are the problem.
No.
It's the evilness.
Well, actually.
Police are lying. Doctors are lying. Everybody's lying.
That, and I think the other problem is there's too many people cooperating with their lies.
Yes.
So the cooperation is actually part of the devil too. I mean, if you look at like what Gandhi did in India, he did that with non-cooperation, and which is ingenious. So that bypasses the whole political and legal system. Just don't cooperate. But how do you get people not to cooperate? That's the tough nut to crack.
There's too many people though that are fearful.
Yep.
And they are fearful.
Yep. Yeah, so that's about all I got. Anybody got anything else?